So thank you everybody for being with us. Tina, how are you today?
Good. I'm at my grandkids drinking out of my fairy grandmother mug.
That's cute. I love it. I love it. I'm just going to try to put my earpiece in. All right. So, most people know you. Last year you made just shy of 3 million. You've made over 1 million so far this year. And, sometimes it's interesting. People will either be really happy to see someone have great success. And then there's people who will try to justify that success or the things that have gone on in relationship to what's happening even in their own life, and either why you either had it or why they didn't have it. So it's always interesting to me to interview and to spend time with someone who has a high level of success. So here's the first question for you, as we just want to jump right into this, because of course, this group knows you and knows who you are, knows the success you've had. You're number one agent or small team in the nation for Century 21. I mean, accolades all over the place. But what is it that drives you? What makes you tick? What is it that makes you want to go to those levels that really are there? There's very few people up there, and some incredible, if you would say, views are there from the top. What gets you there? Why do you persevere? Why do you drive to the top?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it's just who I am. I think it's who I've always been, even when I was young, and I've told this story many a times, even when I was young and, I started working at 12 years old doing babysitting, and then got a job at 14 at a restaurant. I think if you get to a point in your life, where and I've known what I wanted from the time I was very young, to be successful, to have a good life. And you have to work hard at that. So for me, it's also at this stage. So once you've made money that I make, once you make that money, then you look at other things, because then it can't always be about the money, because if it is, then you lose it very fast, right? So now it's about challenging myself. What kind of, like I've always said, I'm going to hit a certain level and I'm going to work hard to get there. And also, it has to become about other things. The thing I love about being able to have the flexibility now to be able to help others, to donate money to different organizations that I feel passionate about, to help my children, to contribute to my, community. So for me, it goes past the accolades. It starts to roll into a whole different level when you get to that point where that it's important to give back. It's important to give back to your community, to give back to your family, from the standpoint of, like, I took a lot of time away from my family building my business, and now I'm trying to give that time back to them, right? So I'm very mindful of the time that I spend with them, and the quality of time I spend with them. So when I'm with them 100% now. When I was chasing that dream and killing myself to try to get to that place, sometimes you have to make those decisions that you can't be at a ball game, and it's hard. It's a hard balance. But now I feel like I'm at a space in my life where I can make those decisions and say, no, I'm going to go to this, and this is something I'm going to give my time for. And you learn how to manage your time better because you have that flexibility. Because even though you're chasing, or not chasing, but you're going after every deal, you kind of start to set priorities. So for me, if I get those hairs on the back of my neck, if I go on a listing appointment and I just feel like this is going to be a transaction that is going to cost me money at the end of the day, or cost me more time than I'm worth, I don't take it. But I worked hard to get to that place, right? So now I'm more about the quality as the quantity. But the funny thing about that is the quantity comes too, because it's kind of interesting when you don't look at it from like chasing every deal, the deals just start stacking up, because you have a whole different approach about your business and a whole different confidence, and people
A whole different energy, right? Whole different energy.
Yes, and people are drawn to that.
So when I met you, I mean, obviously you were doing well before I met you. I mean, certainly people would look at you and go, wow, she is really doing great things. But
since I've met you, I've watched you, go from doubling your income to tripling your income to where very well this year you may quadruple your income since the moment that we met. So for you, what would you say has been those defining moments? And I don't care whether it's your youth or a decision of what you believe to be possible. What would you say has been one of the more defining moments for your life when it just started to really click and you started to realize what was possible? I can remember for myself many years ago where I fell off a bike and I was so angry because my mother couldn't give me $5. She was a single mother. I wanted to go play video games, and I remember screaming out loud, I will be rich. And I've always had this desire to have enough, to have money. It doesn't mean there's been moments where I haven't had it. I've had moments where I haven't had enough, but I've never lost that desire to be wealthy. And I think there was that defining moment, and it was over a $5 bill to go play video games, and it just set a course to persevere, how to figure out how to be wealthy. So for you, what would you say has been either one or two or whatever you want to say, but some of the more defining moments where you kind of said, this is where I'm going, this is what I'm going to have, this is where I'm headed. And it doesn't mean there hasn't been temporary defeats like Napoleon Hill will talk about, or setbacks Napoleon Hill will talk about. But for you, what were some of those defining moments?
Well, there was a big one for me. So I was doing good business since I have always done good business. My first
Right.
year, I was one rookie in the company that I worked for. So, I've always done well. But what really hit me hard was in 2007 when the market crashed and I had to cash in my 401k. And that's for me because I thought, here I am making all this money doing all this. And I didn't realize how unprepared something like that. And then I ended up running a fund in San Diego. I got a great opportunity to run a fund in San Diego. I had, 12 agents that worked under me, and we had a $40 million fund, but I almost killed myself doing that.
Yeah, you're
And
going back and forth from San Diego to Ventura County. Back and forth, right?
I did that 4 days, 3 days, 4 days, 3 days. And it almost killed me. I remember driving in the car. This is really hard to say. I remember driving in the car thinking, I'm just going to crash my car because I can't do one more day of this, And so once I ended that, I remember very distinctly saying, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. And the guy I was working for, he was not a very nice person. He said, if you quit now, that means you have no character. You can't leave me like this. Well, I can't leave him because I was making him a ton of money, right? But he didn't care what was happening to me. And I just remember that I'm never going to put myself in that position again. I'm going to figure out a way that if it's a good market, a bad market, whatever market it is, I am going to be successful. And I'm never going to put myself in a financial position where I almost lose everything, right?
Right. That's interesting. Tina, I didn't know that story. And the reason why I say that, I knew the story, of course, you doing work down in San Diego, of course, the fund and all the properties that you were moving and whatnot. But I didn't, but it's interesting that you're saying that because it was very similar for me. People have asked me like, why on earth would you start a real estate company in the middle of the absolute downturn of the market? I can still remember people calling me going, we're trying to get out of this business and you're going into it. And what it was, essentially, I had lost everything, right? I had my health, I had my family, had Jennifer, the kids, but I had lost everything. And I was so angry that in fact, I just said it just last week. I said, the reality is the first at least 2 years of building Everest, it was on pure anger. I was so upset that how could I allow myself to be in that space? And I hope there's people listening that I think we all go through that. There's that moment where it's kind of like you just say, that's it, no more. And I think that as I'm hearing that from you, that look, that was that moment where I'm not going to be there ever again. And that was my same thing. I'm not going to ever be there ever again. I was questioning whether I was going to feed the family, whether, could I get a car to drive? Would I have my home? It was ruthless. I know many agents were there during that time, but some people hunkered down and just said, well, I guess that's all there is. And they kind of lost their me. And I can hear from you, it just kind of ticked me off. And I'm like, not happening. And that was
I,
this, and some, you know, good.
I was at the house when this flipper called me, and I had just snapped. I just like, I couldn't do it anymore. And he was just so mean. And I thought, no one is ever going to control me like that again, ever.
Yeah.
And
that might be why we're such good friends, because that's the same way I feel, man. Put me in bondage, handcuff me in the sense of like what I can and can't do, or what I can and where I can and can't go, and how I do business. I mean, it's the number of times I've been asked to do higher corporate level things in other companies, and I sit there and I shake my head going, I think I would have absolutely lost my mind that someone could have controlled me like that. So
yes.
I think that's interesting.
And then what I started to do at that point is I thought, okay, what can I do that maybe won't pay off today? Because I had banked a pretty decent amount of money, doing the flips. So I thought, what can I do today to pay off down the road? And that was a defining moment for me, from the standpoint that I started to really market hard in Moore Park. I mean, I was sending tons of mailers out, putting a ton of money into mailers when the market was basically crap, but I think because of that, when everything started to recover, no one else was doing it, right? And so my name just kind of came to the top. But then you have to provide the good service in order to, you can't be a turn and burn or one and done, right? You have to keep continually providing good service. Right. And I thought, what else can I do? Because when I was very active in all their sports, I was team mom and everything for all their sports. So that's how you meet a lot of people. Right now, I'm thinking, okay, my kids are all grown. What can I do? So then I started to volunteer on a higher level within being on boards and helping out in the community and those types of things, which got me re-engaged, but just at a different level.
Right. I mean, I always say this, right? You're giving back in relationship to your time, but you also, of course, have given back in ways economically. And the combination of your time and your resources is a pretty special place to be, where you really set yourself apart from what others are doing, also because of the difference you're making in the lives of other people. Hey, go back to the fact you said you marketed. Now, I know there's the marketing part of like, hey, we run an ad, but I know you well enough. And when you're talking about, when you're talking about marketing, you're talking about the fact that when things seemed the most bleak, when things seemed the most tough, maybe there seemed to be just a glimmer of light of recovery in the marketplace. You didn't just go out and do flyers. You didn't just send some mailings. What did you go do? I'm trying to lead you down the path of course you did a ton of door knocking. I mean, it's fair to say that almost every home in all of Moore Park, which I don't know the population, but I would suspect you probably basically knocked on every single one of them.
Yes, we did a ton of door knocking. We did, things, calling my database, doing newsletters. But the door knocking is huge. I mean, just getting your face out there, volunteering at events where, we sponsor and we're there talking to people. I mean, you just have, it's a numbers game.
So hold on. So just do this for me. Just tell me specifically. I mean, I know when we first started doing some coaching together, there were some very specifics, but I want you to share them. What were kind of your standards in regards to the way in which you prospected, like how many contacts or how many doors, how much per week? What was, because what people sometimes think like, oh, this all magically happened for Tina. No, Tina grinded it out, which I know you did, and you went and knocked on the doors. So give it just a perspective. If an agent came to you and said, man, I'm really wanting to take my business to the next level. Yeah, you could run an ad, you could do certain things, which are luxuries today that you're able to do because you have the economics to do so. But the reality is that when those economics weren't there, what were you doing and what advice would you give to an agent in regards to prospecting specifically to doors?
Well, I think you have to, I door knock 2 hours a day, every day. I'd take one day a week off, but back then I was door knocking like every day for at least 2 hours. And I
hope everyone's hearing that, because somehow they think that you show up with this success and magically it all happened for you. And you were this overnight success over the last, 30 years of your career. And the reality is that you have really, truly taken the time, the energy to talk with people, which is the moral of almost everything we're talking about, right? You run ads so you can connect to another person. You don't knock a door so you can connect to another person. So right. I just hope people really hear, because your success is almost mind blowing. And yet it started so simply.
Well, and it's interesting because there are days when I couldn't door knock, right? But that was because I was doing a community event or volunteering. So if I couldn't door knock, then I was doing something. I was, helping out at the Boys and Girls Club, or I was at a city event or whatever. It wasn't always just door knocking. I mean, I have to say there were many days, like on a Saturday, where I'd be at the ball field or, just helping out or whatever. But it was just that time being in front of people. The one thing that everyone says when I go to a listing appointment, the first thing they say is they always know it's a Tina Hare home because it's presented. The photographs, the staging. I mean, we just went on a listing appointment and the lady said, I've been following you for years. And every time I see it, every time I look at a listing, I know when it's your listing without even looking at who the listing agent is because of the
You're giving a world-class experience. And it was Justin Udy talks about, right? I mean, to the clients and to the public who gets to see it, right?
Right. And that's super important. But I think the other thing that's really important too is when you're door knocking, you have to bring some value, right? So I always door knocked, talking about the neighborhood, talking about what's going on in the neighborhood as far as sales and, the market, whether it was good or bad, so that you could give value. I've talked about this before. We had an earthquake and I did this whole earthquake preparedness kit and I door knocked that. So I always tried to bring value to door knocking. Now, sometimes people were mean, but more times than not, people were nice. But the most important thing was the consistency, right? It was constantly seeing me, constantly either knocking on their door, seeing me at a open house or seeing me in the community. So it's just that consistency that people knew
Right.
I was always there, right? And then also it's when you're on a listing appointment, it's the confidence, right? I mean, I always tell the young agents, fake it till you make it, walk in afraid, walk in confident. Because if you walk in unsure of yourself and afraid, they're going to eat you alive. But if you walk in confident and they feel that you know what you're talking about, they're going to respect you. And that's the difference. And, I've said this before. If I sit down on a listing appointment and a client starts telling me what his house is worth and what he needs to do and all that, I just stop them and I say, I'm a little confused. Did you call me, right? And they're like, yeah. And I said, well, why did you call me? If you know how to do this, you don't need me. Why did you call me? And the first thing they say is, whoa, and it takes them off their game, right? And
yeah.
So
well, you take back that control of the situation, right?
Expert, I know what's going on. And you have to kind of demand respect. I mean, it's kind of, I say this too. If I'm building something and I call a structural engineer and he says you need a grade beam, I'm not going to question him, right? Because he's the expert.
Right.
So if you call me in to ask me what your house is worth and you just ignore everything I say, then why am I here? Right? You could do this yourself.
Well, what I'm hearing you say is that excuse me, that fundamental that you believe you're the right agent for the job and that you can get the job done, and really holding and standing in that space of confidence, right? That you really are that person.
Right, exactly. And just but here's the thing. You can't have that confidence if you're not prepared, right?
Right.
You don't prepare yourself. You're not prepared, then you're never going to have that confidence.
So let's switch gears, and it looks like you need to readjust there, but let's just switch gears for a moment. You're fine. Let's switch gears for a minute. And what I mean by why I want to switch gears is you mentioned listings. So let me just answer just a quick question for me. How many listings have you taken year to date?
I think
approximately is fine.
50, and we have about 15 in the queue right now.
Okay, so you've taken 15 in a queue. You've earned over $1 million already this year. Obviously great things are happening from the standpoint of your business. I mean, you're almost, crazy busy. two things that I think are relevant here. We have a lot of agents listening to you that are, of course, buyer agents, and agents who work primarily with buyers, or really just attempting anything they can do to get an offer accepted, number one. And number two, there's people, of course, who want to take more listings. So let's just start with the first question. In relationship to the number of listings that you have, talk to me about how you're negotiating and what you're really looking for from the buyer's agent and from those clients. How are you making your decisions and helping a seller navigate to either accepting or rejecting or going with one offer over another offer? What advice would you give to an agent who's trying to get offers accepted in today's marketplace?
Well, we like to know the story. So when we call the agent, we kind of ask them first about the client, how long have they been looking? How many offers have they written? I mean, that's an important thing to me, because it's amazing how agents will spill the beans. They'll tell you, oh, we wrote 3 offers, we canceled because of inspections. Well, my recommendation to the client is going to be that goes at the bottom of the pile. I don't care how much money they're putting down, that goes to the bottom of the pile. We've taken VA offers because I felt that was the strongest client, and then we just
did you say V? Did you sorry? Did you say VA offers?
Yes, I've taken VA offers.
Okay, all right. So it has, you're taking the best offer despite how maybe they're even doing their financing.
Absolutely, because if you talk to the lender and you have a comfort level with the lender, you're looking at their debt to income ratio, you're looking at their credit scores, you're looking at their job stability. And then I put a lot of weight in the motivation. What's the motivation of the buyer? We always have a backup offer, because when the first offer kind of can get, who knows, right? So you always make sure you have a backup, kind of keeps them honest.
Sure.
But
so let's make sure we're clear. So you have one offer, and then you'll have it no matter what, because the number of offers that you're getting, you're always getting a second offer, a backup offer to that.
Yes.
You ask questions about their motivation. You inquire how long maybe they've been looking for a home. How many offers have either been accepted, or how many offers have they put out there? What were some of the reasons why they declined to buy those homes, if they put anything under contract? I mean, it sounds like you're really getting down into the psyche of who that client is and to how you're going to have to deal with them.
Right. And the other thing is if we don't have an offer that has a lot of money down, we might take an offer like that VA offer. They had family that was willing to help them to bring in the difference between the appraisal and the price that they paid, right? Because we all know appraisals aren't coming in. So that was a good offer, because it didn't matter that it was 100% financing. They had extra money that they could bring in, and none of the other offers have that. So that's the first thing we look for. Who's going to be willing to remove the appraisal contingency, but not just remove the appraisal contingency, but to put in there that they're going to bring the difference in and show proof that they can do that. So
what else is important to you in regards to dealing with the agent and the potential client who's going to accept that offer?
The agent themselves. I'm telling you guys, return phone calls. If I can't tell you how many times we have not taken offers from an agent because they bring us an offer. Number one, they don't call us and tell us ahead of time that we're getting an offer, so it just appears in our inbox. They don't give us any information about the client, and they don't return the phone calls. I don't want to work with that person. I don't care how good their offer is, because if they can't even do their job by responding and dealing with a normal transaction, what happens when things go south? They're going to be the first ones to bail, right? So responding. And the other thing that's really important is make relationships. I just got an offer accepted over an all cash buyer because it was an agent that I had done business with in the past. And the first thing that she said to her client was, because, we all know right now we're getting all these Valley and LA agents that are coming in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this was an LA agent bringing LA money in. And this guy loved his home, and the agent did a great job. She said, this is a local family who's lived in TO their whole lives, and they have waited 2 years to find their dream home. And this agent, she knows her stuff. She's not going to let this fall apart. She will do everything she can to keep this deal together. This agent hasn't returned my call for 3 days, has just written this all cash offer, but doesn't respond, didn't write any letter. We wrote a beautiful letter about, just not detail, just about their home, you know, and how much they
Sure.
loved the home. And we got that deal over an all cash buyer
Love
because
it.
that agent was smart enough to know that she knew what she had in front of her with me, but she had no idea with this other agent. And her first impression of her is, you're not returning my phone calls, right? Because the other agent was too busy to take the time, because she was from LA. And we get agents that call us now and say, hey, I'm in LA, can you show my client? You can't believe the stuff that happens. I'm like, no, you can get in your car and you can show your client. And they get mad. And I think, what do you think is going to happen when you write that offer and you put that offer in front of me? Like,
Right.
what do you think is
So
going
I'm
to happen?
hearing great communication, right? Show that if I'm a buyer's
Be
agent, doing
prepared.
everything I can to reduce the risk of that great communication, find the motivation, get
Right.
deep. So just, we've got 5 minutes left. So let me ask you this. So now I'll switch gears. How does an agent in today's marketplace, because the markets are so similar, whether it's Utah or California specifically, with the group that's on this call, how do you go take more listings today? What advice would you say, man, I've got all these buyers, but I have got to get some listings? Because what we do know this, I mean, you know this, a guaranteed sale is taking a listing. It's not a guaranteed sale if you have a buyer in today's marketplace. So how does an agent in today's marketplace go take more listings? What advice would you give to that agent?
Okay, so it's really important. This is something you can do, but you need to make sure that you can, how do I say this? You can walk the walk, if you know what I mean. So we write letters, but we're very specific about our letters, and we don't send letters out to a neighborhood unless we actually have buyers for that neighborhood.
Okay.
But it is been so successful for us. We write letters, we tell them in the letter, without getting too detail oriented, with names and stuff. But sometimes we have clients that actually want us to send a picture. So sometimes we send a picture, but we write letters and we send letters
But
out.
so the letter isn't just some random, letter that people are going, okay, this is just an investor trying to find. I mean, you give details to the importance of someone wanting to buy in this neighborhood or in that specific area, right?
Right. So what we do is we write about the client. They've lived in Moore Park for 10 years. We just closed escrow on their home. They're sitting in a rental. They're looking for a home in your neighborhood. They've, whatever the story is. But it's super important, because then when you get that phone call. So here's an example. So we did that same letter. We showed our client up at a property up in the Pinnacles, and our buyer didn't happen to like the house, but because we built a relationship with the client, they wanted us to list the house, but they weren't quite ready to list it because they're not going to be moving until September. So we were just getting ready to put it on the market and start doing the pre-marketing and stuff when I get a phone call from him, and he said, hey, Tina, it's Ralph. He said, I got a letter from somebody who says that they have a buyer. I'm torn, like I really want to list with you, but if I can save money. And I said, Ralph, I said, because I knew in my head, because he read me the letter, that it was a BS letter, right? So I said, Ralph, why don't you just call the agent, have the agent come show you the property, show the property. And if it works out great, I'll look at the offer for you. I'm happy. And he was like blown away. He was like, are you sure? And I said, because I'm really struggling. And I said, it's okay. I promise. He calls me back a day later. He goes, you're not going to believe this. It was all a lie. And I go, oh, really? What happened, Ralph? And he goes, yeah, the agent called me, said he had a buyer, said he was going to bring him by at a certain time, drops off a whole listing package, then calls me back 2 hours before and says his client canceled.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, obviously, how about this? Prospect with some integrity and not trying to pull something over on someone, right? Hey, right. So we're just basically out of time. So do this for me, Jan. Give us your last words of counsel, advice, encouragement what if you could say anything, what would you tell us? What advice or counsel or encouragement would you give to this group?
Don't give up. Press on. Uh, even people like me who are very successful. Well, I'll say this, because of all the hard times, I'm successful. Those hard times taught me a lot and gave me a lot of strength. So when you're in hard times, as hard as it seems to do,
Right.
is be grateful. Be grateful and don't give up. Just keep pressing on. And communication is really important. When your client is losing out on deal after deal after deal, take them and go have a cup of coffee. Sit them down. Just explain the market to them. Like, really, Libby had a struggle with the client because he was getting frustrated. And I said, Libby, you need to go to his house or take him for a cup of coffee. And they sat down and they hashed it out. And he just didn't understand, right? And so communicate. Keep communicating with them, because when it's good, it's easy, right? But when it's hard is when we need to be doing more communication and spending more time with our clients and really talking through things with
Right.
them.
Right.
So that's a big thing that I think is really important, especially for buyers agents, because right now, the buyers are getting frustrated, and you're the first person they're going to blame. It's your fault I'm not getting that deal.
Yeah.
Right.
So basically, I'm hearing be completely transparent, right? Educate your people, educate the buyers, educate the sellers, right? Communicate at the highest level in today's marketplace. Never give up. Make sure that you're persevering through even the difficult times. And then you take a step back and go, wow, this is how it works. And I've said this, man, so many people want all the success, the accolades, and the joy that can come from that success. But there's always a price to pay. And I think this is relevant for everybody, you and me, but so much of success is dictated based on who we become. If we want to earn more, we have to become more as a human being, as a leader, as a person who's driving and moving and running, any part of our business or any part of a company. So it's great.
Right.
Well, hey, thank you so very, very, very much. You're amazing. We love you. We're so grateful for you. Thank you for, of course, choosing Everest. And you're a dear friend. And it's exciting to see your success. And actually, what's next for Tina Hare?
Well, should I say it?
Oh, you can, whatever you feel like comfortable, like whatever you want to say. What's the next big thing that you feel like, hey, this is what I'm going to make happen in my
Well,
life?
we're opening a company in business in Texas, and we're going to start selling real estate in Texas. So it's been a struggle, and I know there's all kinds of rumors. Tina left, all this crazy stuff, but I didn't leave. I'm just choosing to split my time and build something in a place where I think is really going to be the next, well, already is being the next boom. But so it's challenging, and I'm struggling through
You're taking it on.
But I'm
it.
super excited about it. So yeah.
Oh, you're going to be great.
Yeah. So we're doing, we're just building that. So it's going to take some time, and you're a big part of that. So we're very grateful for that. But yeah, growing Moore Park. We're doing a lot of new things. We have some really exciting new advertising that we're doing. That's kind of social media type advertising that we're doing right now. And so we're trying to grow Moore Park and add a few more cities on, and then take on Texas. So we'll see.
There we go. I love it. That's awesome. All right, Ms. Hare, you're awesome. Thank you for everything. Let's
Thank
guys.
You.
Yeah,
Thanks, everyone.
thank you. And yep, absolutely.